2 seconds to introduce it.
Right. Minister, in my opinion, the dirty little secret about rebuilding Ireland is that the vast, vast majority of the so-called social housing that you intend to deliver is in fact going to be private housing. I don't think it's going to work in the form of HAPs. I was just doing a thought on your page 46 graph about 80,000 of the social housing units you plan to deliver between now and 2021 are HAPs. 80,000. And then you add into that about 8,000 to 9,000 in leasing and another few thousand in RAS. Now,
thank you, Deputy.
I've made the point I don't think it's work. Can you tell me how much that's going to cost on an annual basis to the Exchequer to fork out the money to those private landlords?
Thank you, Deputy Minister, to respond.
Well, all three of the current expenditure funding schemes, the RAS scheme, the HAP scheme and the social housing current expenditure programme, are critical components of the accelerated delivery of social housing envisaged under Rebuilding Ireland. It's anticipated that more than 111,000 households will have their housing need met by one of these schemes in the period to 2021. The annual cost of the three schemes to the Exchequer is made up of the continuing cost of supporting the tenancies and contracts in place at the end of the previous year, and the additional cost of the new tenancies and contracts supported over the course of the year to which the allocation relates. The cost of the schemes in future years is therefore dependent on the number of housing units or tenancies falling to be funded within each scheme and the rental or lease payments involved. In 2017, HAP will support an additional 15,000 households, RAS will support an additional 1,000 households, transferring from rent supplement, and the SHCEP is targeted to secure an additional 2,250 social housing units using a variety of different delivery mechanisms, with each unit secured under the long-term availability/lease arrangement. This level of increased output will necessitate increased financial support for these programmes in 2017. The annual estimates process is currently underway, and my department is working with the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform to finalise the necessary allocations for the delivery of these schemes in 2017.
Okay, thank you, Minister. Deputy.
Figures are probably correct. The scale of outsourcing of social housing to private landlords is going to be ramped up again and again and again to the total, as you outlined, 111,000 outsourced to private landlords through HAPs, RAS and leasing. That's what you just said. Between now and 2021, and it's in your graph. Stop shaking your head. You just said it. Right?
Address the Chair, please. Speak to the Chair. Speak to the Chair, please. I'm not shaking my head at all.
I'm looking at your graphs and I'm looking at the figures you just gave me, okay? Yeah.
Minister,
now,
please,
you didn't answer the question. You did not answer the question, how much is it going to cost? And if I picked you up wrong there, correct me. How many houses in this plan up to 2021 are going to be delivered by HAPs, RAS and long-term leasing? And please do not tell me that you don't have estimated figures of how much that is going to cost the state. But I can tell you that it doesn't take a rocket science to work out. It's going to cost us a fortune. And that is as against directly building local authority houses, actual council houses that people want, who are on the list, which would generate a rental stream for us and mean the state actually had an asset.
Minister, to respond.
Well, Deputy, unfortunately the reality is that we can't do everything together. Not even you could deliver all the social houses on the time frame that you seem to think is possible. The reality is that we have huge pressure on the system and there is no one silver bullet. And so what we need to do is to put sustainable long-term tenancies in place where we can. We need to put long-term leasing arrangements in place where appropriate to do so. We need to have a very aggressive build programme, which we do now have, and I would ask for the support of local authorities in doing that, and for the most part that has been forthcoming so far. And it will be a combination of all of those things that will deliver an extra 47,000 social housing units in terms of extra units into the system, as well as an increasing number of people on HAP, some of whom which will be moving from rent supplement, which we're looking to phase out, to actually have a much more sustainable long-term supportive rental model, which will come under the HAP scheme. So what we are doing is we're working with the realities that we face to try and get good, sustainable solutions for as many families as possible.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy.
Earlier on, I want to stress we're in favour of affordable housing. We're not against it, right? But, by the way, you won't get it unless you do what the Kenny report proposed in the 1970s, which is take control of all building land and make sure that we set the prices. Because the last affordable housing scheme failed catastrophically. It didn't deliver any affordable housing because the market went through the roof. So the question is, how do you control the market? And the answer, Minister, is you build more social housing. It provides low-cost housing. It also keeps a lid on the market as a whole. But will you please answer? How much is this going to cost? But it's obvious from what you're saying and from your report that the amount of money that is going to be going out from the Exchequer is going to increase exponentially over the next 5 or 6 years. And I put it to you, Minister, that is money out the door when you should be putting the money into local authority housing, which we would then own and we would get rent from. In the long term, it would be better quality housing and it would be better value for money for the state.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. To conclude. 1 minute.
Look, I mean, the truth, Deputy, is that it's a combination of both. Some people actually don't have any issue with being in long-term tenancies. You have this sort of ideological issue that the state has to control all this land, has to control all this property, and so on. What we are doing is we're going to increase significantly the state's stock of social housing. We're going to build as quickly as we can that increased stock, and we have funding in place for the next 5 years to do that, over €5 billion of it. Right? On top of that, we want to learn lessons from the past to put secure and sustainable tenancies in place for families and individuals that need the help of the state to do that. And the most efficient way to do that, in my view, is to pursue the course of action that we're taking, which is to shift people from rent supplement over time onto HAP, and to take a lot of extra people who unfortunately can't afford to secure tenancies in the private rental sector, but are happy to rent as long as they have support from the state. And that's where HAP comes in. And from the take-up so far and from the feedback that we're getting on HAP, it's very positive. Perhaps in Dublin the approach to HAP is a little different. And that's because HAP hasn't rolled out in Dublin yet, except in one of the local authorities here. But I think we'll be able to judge that much more accurately this time next year when we have HAP rolled out across Dublin. Sorry, well, I mean, you'll see all the costings and details in the budget next week, Deputy. They'll all be published.
That concludes